A New Hope, Nier Chapter 35. Please like and share our videos, we have a lot more stories to share with you. There was a little bit of an argument once the other girls found out the twins and 9S despoiled me. Commander White was especially miffed about how she didn't notice Popola getting into position for it. So did anything happen while I was gone on my adventures? I asked A2 and she nodded, telling me how a couple of resistance androids had been poking around with all the YoRHa models returning here all the time. But other than that, not much had really happened. So where is the YoRHa base being built? Commander White gave a noncommittal shrug before speaking. We have 5 installations being built at the moment on the ground in targets of interest, primarily in old industrial zones, as the ground is so saturated in concrete and steel that any machine lifeforms that specialize in digging through the ground will be easily found through seismic sensors. Well, it's a good thing they don't plan on putting all their eggs into one basket, as it were. Now Jake, we wanted to do further testing with your magic, as you said before that you can control metal, and we wanted to see if you could learn how to remotely crush or otherwise disable large quantities of machines, as they and the aberrant ranked machines are the biggest problems in our war against them. White explained, and then went on to tell me that no longer were androids having to do black box reactions to act as suicide bombers when it came to Goliath and even some alpha-class machines. As with the orbital cannon and now an orbital laser emitter being built, they were getting ahead when it came to destroying elite machine lifeforms without costing YoRHa lives in the process. Oh, hell no, you can't seriously be thinking of allowing him to go to the dark zone even though he is stronger than us combat models. A2 yelled and stood up in defiance of Commander White's idea. What? What's going on with the dark zone? I asked, confused, as I didn't really know much of anything about the Dark Zone, and neither did YoRHa, as the Android Resistance Army's divisions stationed there were highly insular and rarely made contact with the lit world, and what little YoRHa had of the place was a biological hellscape of beings twisted by Maso and forced into nightmarish forms that lived far longer lives than they should and had various abilities that made them highly dangerous, which is why the whole Florida creatures mutating is so terrifying to YoRHa, as they think that the mutated Maso creatures are adapting to get past their one weakness of the sunlight dissipating the Maso holding their bodies together. This is why there aren't constant armies of machines being manufactured within the Dark Zone, as although it's on paper a three-way war between androids, machines, and the mutating wildlife, it's more often than not the under-equipped androids pissing off the mutated horse-size army ants to attack any large-scale machine armies, which would naturally attack the ants and even go out of their way to wipe out the hives, taking massive casualties in doing so. Just as an example, I was able to get to open some of the declassified operations, and I read how there is a dolphin pod able to shoot sonic waves through water that act like Whitebeard's tremor fruit and were able to shake and vibrate the water enough to destabilize the molecular, holding together a group of Goliaths after being trained and fed by an android who is looked at as a modern Tarzan. Basically, it was androids luring Tyranids to attack a bunch of Necrons in terms of strategy, and only by doing such tactics had the Insular Resistance Army been able to maintain their superiority in that area. And you want me to do what, there? I asked, confused about what in the world White wanted from me, as the machine army was kept basically in check there and only in the ocean where they were unopposed by androids. White could feel the hostile looks coming from all the androids staring at her and only rolled her eyes. I am not sending you out for combat, damn it. The nests made by the mutated insects are made with machine lifeforms, and they are treated with a certain method of Maso that turns them hyper-durable and a large number of other uses. She explained how only the machine lifeforms processed and made into the abodes of the extra-large colonies of insects became basically a magical metal that could without any loss transfer energy through a solid line, so it would make the orbital laser much more viable, not to mention they could use it to make something akin to force fields when they create large-scale YoRHa bases, except instead of being impenetrable it instead burns things down to atoms in the split second it touches the violet light wall. We need you to help Jake, as we can barely collect more than a few grams of the stuff after several androids spent dozens of hours scraping at it with a file, and the force of explosives just doesn't cut it. She helplessly explained, and I nodded in understanding. If I go there I am going to tame a Maso-enhanced panda and call it White. I started making her twitch her lips as everyone laughed at the idea of me basically adopting a fat panda and being all affectionate with it and calling it White. 2B interrupted us with a cough, making the room turn to her. IA2 and 9S volunteer to go there as his escorts once he fully recovers. Well gee, thanks for just volunteering me. Ah hell, who can I kid, I hate being stuck in the bunker. I need to build a nice normal house outside, so I don't get depressed staying in one place.